The next panel is about creating community preparedness through and resilience through repair and reuse. But I think we're specifically talking about libraries in this panel. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing with our share library in the Methow Valley. And I have to thank Amanda Miller because I cornered her at the WSRA conference and I had to pick her brain about, what can we do beyond just tools? Because right now we had just a tool library. And speaking from the rural space, it is a challenge to get people to use tools when they have giant barns full of tools. And so does their neighbor down the road. And so we really needed to reflect, and what does the community need to share? And what we came up with was fire preparedness kits that people can rent to get their neighborhoods fire-wised. So essentially it's like tree trimming, string trimmers, hand saws. We started by getting donated a FireWise kit from a local organization because they needed a place where people could have access to it. And so now we are growing that. So by the beginning of fire season next year, in the spring, when people are really looking for their FireWise kits, in our share library, we will have 4 sets of FireWising tools. And we're really excited about that. It is one of the best ways to make your community resilient, is create defensible space around your home. And these are items you don't use that much, and they're perfect for sharing, because a neighborhood could check out the kit, and then every neighbor in the community can use it to get their home fire-wise and create defensible space. It also saves the community a ton of money, because if everybody's buying these huge electric tree saws, and that's a lot of money that the community spends on that, where it could be better shared. And then it also creates this thing I like to talk about a lot, is that connected community, right? When you live in a fire-prone place, you have community preparedness meetings with your neighbors, where if a fire breaks out, who are you going to talk to, and who's going to check on the lady down the street, and who's going to get the dogs if I'm out of town. And having tools that you check out and that you're physically using with your neighbors helps to start those conversations. Everybody knows who each other is. Everybody has worked with their neighbor to get their properties cleared. So it is a really powerful tool, the share library. All right. And I kick it over to the next person here. Are we going with Dante Garcia from the Community Gearbox?
I'm happy to jump in. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you all. One little moment. All right. Cool. Hi, all. I'm Dante. I use he, him pronouns. I am calling in from Ohlone, Yelamu territory in San Francisco. But I'm also born and raised in Washington and spent a lot of time over there as well. I'm the founder of an early stage project called Community Gearbox. First, I just wanted to give a big thank you to Cami and others who helped organize this event. Also, my project is very new, but I've known about and admired the work of everyone else on this panel. So I actually really look forward to learning and connecting with all of you through this panel, but also afterwards. A little background about me. Before working on this project called Community Gearbox, I founded a design cooperative that provided communications and storytelling support for progressive projects across the country. And I was also an active organizer in the climate scene in the Seattle area for a number of years. And it was through exploring the impacts of the climate crisis and our economic system, while also tapping into the power of imagination, that really fed my interest in wanting to contribute and build infrastructure for an alternative economic relationships. So what the heck is Community Gearbox? Committed to disrupting individual consumption and holding a vision of where the world of a world where people's material sense of well-being isn't just an individual pursuit, but a collective one. Community Gearbox is a social inventory management platform that lets people and organizations share, co-own, and mobilize resources amongst folks that they know and trust. I grew up in the Bainbridge area, and I'm really familiar with Buy Nothing and a lot of other projects. And I kept seeing, I think, Sergio, you kind of mentioned this a little bit, that with some of our public spaces where people are sharing things with strangers, some of the things that we share are things that we no longer want. And so I was kind of very curious about, well, what happens if we tap into this space of trust, this network of trust? How much abundance can we make visible and felt in that space? So we're kind of trying to imagine ourselves like the app Canva that makes design and stuff a lot easier, but for inventory management. We're trying to reduce the barrier of entry so that more people can manage resources, but do so as a community. And so that we can also grow the circular economy and the repair economy. We believe that this can have a tremendous impact on our sense of scarcity and in turn make available resources that were otherwise hoarded or underutilized, while also strengthening social bonds. And I don't have any slides, but I wanted to just briefly share my website. I think I can. One moment. All right. Can folks see this? So again, I mentioned we're a very early project. We started at the beginning of this year with a prototype, but you get a little bit of a sense. I'll let people, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but you can get an idea of the kind of app that we're building. Here's a screenshot of our prototype. I'll stop my share, but please feel free to check out the website if folks want to. And thank you for whoever threw that into the chat. All right, but we started at the beginning of the year, and with our values in hand and some hunches of who might want to build with us, we released our prototype and we started having lots of conversations, which brings us to disaster preparedness. I will be honest, I initially had a hunch that it was going to be a lot more outdoorsy folks, which there are some, but it was actually Bainbridge Prepares, a disaster preparedness organization that represents 6,000 households across the island. That was the first organization to really partner with us. And what was really exciting for us was that for them, and for other folks that we've continued to, or new folks that we've partnered with, there's a real clear intersection of disaster preparedness, mutual aid, the circular/repair economy, and equity. Right now, in the event of a disaster like an earthquake, it's likely that first responders will be overwhelmed and neighborhoods will actually be on their own. And that's when the strength of connection and of community is vital, in places where people are taking care of each other will actually fare the best. So knowing that, we're working with Bainbridge Prepares and others to improve our platform to do a number of things. One is enable and encourage more acts of mutual aid, as well as we'll all be better off if people are practicing and taking care of each other and helping meet each other's needs and sharing things well before a disaster happens. Two, we're working on trying to provide interface to run gear drives to gather and map resources in the community as part of initiatives like Map Your Neighborhood, 2 Weeks Ready, and other efforts. Three, we're trying to help mobilize resources after a disaster hits. So if one part of the island, let's say, is without power, Bainbridge Prepares can call upon others to move generators and other resources to where they're needed. Lastly, we want to help these organizations simply make the abundance of their resources as an organization visible and accessible for folks who would like to, as Sergio mentioned, like clear brush around houses, practice first responder drills. Sometimes there's equipment and things that are needed that are specialty items that might be very expensive, but also do things like that and more. We know that there's no one solution, but rather an ecosystem of efforts and actors is needed to meet this challenge in front of us. But we hope that this platform that we're iterating towards and trying to imagine and build can contribute to that ecosystem by providing a space where people can pool and share resources, but also get to like practice these skills like mutual aid and build trust in their neighborhoods so that we can all become more resilient. Because as someone from Bainbridge Prepares puts it, when a disaster hits, life gets very local very quickly. Taking a little bit of a step back, I kind of mentioned that we started at the beginning of this year. It's been really great. We've had a number of folks, about 300 folks jump on our platform. We recently just received fiscal sponsorship and finally have some monies to contribute and push towards iterating and improving the platform. So that, and in January, we'll actually be re-releasing what we've built on the app or on the Apple and Google stores. And lastly, we also were recently accepted into REI's Embark program. So there's a number of cool things that are happening with us, and we really are looking for community partners, people just to talk to, have conversations with. So really, I just want to encourage folks, if you are at all curious about what the heck I'm up to, what community Gearbox is and stuff like that, to please reach out. I would love to chat with you all and learn more. Cheers.
Wow, that's awesome, Dante. Cool site. I cannot wait to check that out. I love the whole like bringing people together over preparedness, like such a powerful thing to do. So next we're gonna go to Liz from Vashon Care Network and talk about their, I believe they do share library for medical equipment.
That's right. And I'd like to give a shout out to all the people that I see from my past. I was 20 years in the San Juans doing community development work. And it's just great to see Nikita and Anita from the Grange and Nancy Best from the Grange and other folks up there doing amazing stuff in the San Juans. Because as we know, islands are pretty much islands are the most incredible limited resource places that one can find. So I live on Vashon Island now. It's a ferry served island like the San Juans. We're dependent on these large vehicles that our state government sometimes can run and sometimes can't. And we work around them. And it's just incredible to me to see what Lopez has done in terms of making its community a sustainable community. I always say I think Lopez Island is one of the most sustainable places on earth, and everybody should go and visit there and look up Nikita and see the amazing things that they've done. Anyway. So I'd like today, I'm here to talk about the Vashon Care Network. As you can see, I have a few gray hairs. And this care network is what I consider my long-term care insurance. And I've put my energies and experience in terms of nonprofit development into working for this organization. And with that, I have a few slides to share. Let's see if I can pull this together. I want to share sound and I want to optimize for my video clip, and then I want to share. And I'd welcome anybody else who is from Vashon and involved with the Care Network. There's a bunch of us, Susie Calhorn and a few other folks who are, let's see, how do we show this? Show slideshow. Yes, is that right? Slideshow? Yeah. Just a second. How do I get this started, you guys? Okay, from the beginning, here we go. Yes. So, as I say, Vashon Island is in the lower Puget Sound. We're off the coast of Seattle. It was the traditional territory of the people who identified themselves as the Squabosh or the Swiftwater people. That population was decimated by Europeans who came to this area, settling in the 1840s and on. And today, about 10,000 people consider Vashon home, and 40% of us are over the age of 60. So the Vashon Care Network is a all-volunteer group that shares medical supplies and equipment from our care closet, as well as offering information about home-based care and and how to get care when you need it. During COVID, our only assisted living facility closed. And so we are really on our own to take care of one another. And so I'd like to tell you a little bit about our history. Originally, our care closet, which is this huge equipment of durable medical equipment, was organized by the fire department. And they had this closet of stuff. And because, you know, they'd have to evacuate people, they'd have to make people comfortable in their homes when they came back from the mainland getting treatment, et cetera, et cetera. And what happened over the years is a couple of professional caregivers, Bridget and Chris, took over this equipment library, and they found a new home, and that was the funeral home. And so when I first came to the island in 2015 and needed to borrow a wheelchair to transport my honey to the garden show, I went to the funeral home and checked out the wheelchair. And anyway, over the years that the collection grew, and in 2017, the Lutheran Church came forward and said, we would like to share our mission and make space for your program of supporting people in need on this island. And that incredible relationship has gone on to this day. 2018, we incorporated into a 501c3 and started fundraising for our own space. So we have we have the rooms that used to be the childcare rooms, Sunday school rooms in the church, but we needed more space. And so I tell you, this is how we fundraised during COVID. All right. Theoretically, this is going to work. Whoa. No, let's stop that. Okay. And so today we have these two beautiful barns, and this panel on the right is what you would see from Vashon Highway as you're coming up towards the Lutheran Church. So you know where you've come to once you get here. Several people in the room participated in that. Alex and Steve Bergman were incredible volunteers for months in putting these barns together and getting them ready to store now the equipment. And this is what we're talking about: commodes, crutches, wheelchairs, walkers, supplies for bedding, for depends, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we have a huge crew of fantastic volunteers who every day answer the crisis line or the line or phone line or respond to the website to make sure that people get what they need in a timely manner. Also, so sharing these things not only ties our community together, but it has the positive environmental impact of reducing trips to the mainland for something like this, and less manufacture and transport of new equipment. So we truly resource and recycle what we've got. And one of our long-term Fix-It Cafe volunteers, Rob Piston, stands by to make repairs as we need them. As an affluent community, relatively, Vashon produces enough medical equipment to share with others. And every month we export 30 to 50 pieces of useful equipment to an international relief organization that sends containers around the globe to places in need of medical equipment and supplies. So durable medical equipment from Vashon has been shipped in these large containers to Morocco, Cambodia, Liberia, Guinea, and Uganda over the years. And speaking of sharing, this was a very fun thing we did this last year, sharing with our other community collections. And we celebrated National Library Week with 7 other collections. As you can see, our Vashon Care Network, and we put together a week of activities and cross-referenced one another. We handed out our borrowed stickers so people could go from one event to the other and explore our different collections, because Vashon likes to share. So we have a musical instrument library with over 500 items. We have a food preservation library that our Vashon Island Growers Association hosts and makes available dehydrators and food production tools, farming tools, and chicken plucking equipment, and other kinds of tools to add value to agricultural products. We have the No Trash Bash stash, which it has been around for a long time. It's serveware, it's plates, cups, napkins, tablecloths. You can have enough supplies to outfit a wedding, and it's available in crates. You get crates of cups or whatever for your potluck or whatever kind of event. Of course, our Vashon Public Library is very involved. It's a branch of King County. Vashon Reads is a great new little library. It goes around to, especially to homeschooled families, taking kids' books and just providing opportunities for kids to get together on a block on a long, dark road at the end of a long road, and get new books. And then, of course, the Vashon Tool Library is Alex Jerome on the planning committee. I met up with Alex at the Tool Library, and we're both librarians. And I've been involved with this organization for a long time. And then finally, Community Place, our community closet for families, which can provide toys and clothing and books, and as well as groups for young families. So our challenges are similar to other rural communities. We have limited resources, but what's important to me is that we're only known by people who know about us. So one of our challenges is to become better known to the 10% of us on the island for whom English is not our first or proficient language. So we're looking to do outreach this next year. We're also struggling with My Turn, Jean, you out there? And hopefully can bring our care closet and our caregivers into the modern age of bringing our inventory online this year. But as you can see, we're ready for these challenges, and because we're the Vashon Care Network and we care. So with that, I'll stop my share. It looks like there have been some comments, and I hope people from the yeah, good. All right. So Alex and a couple other folks have weighed in on it. And I guess I'd like to call out if anyone else from Vashon wants to say anything about Care Closet or any of our other fabulous libraries.
Well, let's hold off on that and let Peter go real quickly, and then we can have everyone weigh in at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
All right, so next we have Peter from the Fix-It Clinic, and he is focusing on global virtual repair and local manufacturing as resilience.
Oh, I am? Okay. So we've been through a series of disasters. We've been through a pandemic. Certainly the whole climate change thing. And I was, for this presentation, I was also riffing on the idea that, war is a disaster, and the Ukrainians are facing a lot of stuff right now. And they're teaching us a lot about resilience with our own military equipment. And this comes to mind because I gave a presentation to the military makerspaces, and they gave me this feedback about how not only can't they fix their own stuff, they're not allowed to fix their own stuff. And it's having issues right now. The Ukrainians have a lot of our gear is failing. They are testing our gear for us. We haven't ever tested in a real war theater, and they're having stuff breaking, and they can't get access to the stuff because of intellectual property issues. But I'm going to share a few quick slides in the 4 minutes I have. If it will let me. It seems to be struggling with this, so maybe I won't. All right. Okay, so as you guys know, during the pandemic, I basically, there it was. All right, let me try it again. Nope, it's gonna take too long, sorry. All right, during the pandemic, basically, we pivoted and went global and virtual at the same time. There were no in-person repair events going on anywhere on the planet. And as part of that, we basically started these Zoom Fix-It clinics and launched the Global Fixer server on Discord. So those have just been amazing in terms of our ability to bring fixers in from around the planet. At this point on Discord, there are almost 500 expert repairers from around the world. So first thing I'd say for local resilience is leverage the fact that we have this global community of repairers, that your local repairers and the people in your community who are handy and want to start repairing on their own, they're all welcome to join Global Fixers, the Discord server, right away. So that assumes a digital literacy, which a lot of us don't have. Or didn't have. And so that's the other thing about Discord, is it also creates this younger demographic for the kinds of things we're doing with repair. And I would make a case that says those are the people we want to reach, because they are the people who are going to inherit this mess that we've made at some level. So during the pandemic, there was this idea that we also launched rapid response mutual aid repair, where we saw that our ability to repair remotely, especially at a time when nobody wanted to do anything in contact with each other, would allow us to basically support repair remotely and support people, issues that were coming up where we weren't sure early in the pandemic. If you remember, the whole national ventilator stockpile was in some sort of state that nobody was sure about. And so we launched rapid response repair to try and address that issue. Assuming the med techs, if they all went out sick with COVID, that we would basically stand up the Fix-It Clinic network of repairers to try and figure out where did we have repairers who could help with that. But, so now we're out of that. What we end up working with a lot of people around was their coronavirus sewing machine. They were sewing coronavirus masks, and they were bringing out these old sewing machines out of the closet they hadn't used for years, and we're starting to use them heavily and aggressively, and they were breaking. And so we definitely helped at that level, if nothing else. But we have to think about that going forward as well, is how do we bring all of that together at this point in the climate crisis? Because our house is on fire, for all of us at this point, essentially. So this is the best I think we can do at this moment, is to try and leverage the idea there's a global knowledge and expertise that's at your disposal. And I invite all of you to incorporate and make your local networks part of that. And it's just, at this point, it's just really, really critical and important to be able to do that. So I want to leave time for questions, and there may be a lot of them, but you guys take it away.
Okay, well, thank you, Peter. That was awesome. There was a question here for Liz. They had a question of, do you partner with fixers to give the items TLC when they come into you?
Yes. So we have one fixer in particular who has volunteered to be available anytime we need him. And so he's always there and has the toolbox that the tool library provided. And so it's pretty much one designated person. Our fixers, though, we do fix-it cafes twice a year. And we've had electric wheelchairs, all sorts of things come through there, and other kinds of equipment. So it's a very interlinked community, and people know how to get things fixed.
I have a question for you, Liz. Is your program mostly elders helping elders, or like what is the range of people involved with your services and programs?
So I'd like to call on Susie Calhorn. She's joined me on the board this last year, and it works intimately with the volunteers who actually make available the service. So Susie, can you answer that question?
Yes. Hi, Sarah Jo. I am a volunteer actually at the Care Closet as well as being on the board. So I know what type of equipment gets loaned out. And I would say that many of the people are elders who use the equipment, but with COVID, for example, joint replacements were on hold. So as right now, everybody's getting their knees and their hips repaired. So that's tends to be an elder community. But over the summer, people who play baseball on the weekends come in with their sprained ankles. So it changes with the season. And I would say, as more people have become aware of the services, the age of people who use the equipment have multi-age, from kids to elder adults.
Wow, great.
I see this question too about liability for the equipment. And we do have people sign off on a liability waiver that they understand that they are using used equipment, and they release us from all liability. It's not been an issue to this day, and let's hope it's not an issue ever in the future.
True. I think liability is a huge conversation within the share community in general. Dante, do you have plans to include fix-it request on your app as well, like peer-to-peer fix-its?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's certainly something that I'm really interested in, and both to hear, Peter, that there's this Discord and online community, but also really interested in incorporating things like Cami. I know that you've been maintaining a map of Washington State, and as much as possible, love to push people as they jump on to really take care of things. My one small little note is, because right now, there's a lot of this sharing stuff that happens, but I'm trying to think about how can we, on the platform that I'm building, how can we orient people to want to actually take care of things? Because sometimes when we just get to like borrow or use, it's kind of transactional, but how do we imbue things with that notion of care and repair and other things like that? So would love to incorporate fixers on the platform itself.
All right, it looks like the next question is for Peter. Can you talk a little bit about sewing machine repair for mask making? Any lessons that you learned, or ongoing virtual events for sewing machine repairs?
So our learning from that was that the best sewing machines were probably manufactured between the 1950s and the 1980s. And they're all metal inside. They're unlike these new modern machines, but they do need maintenance. You have to oil them. You have to oil them with lily white sewing machine oil on a regular basis, or they can jam up in one spot or the other. So that our major learning was, if you leave a sewing machine in a closet for 20 years and then pull it out and start making masks 24 hours a day, you probably need to oil it before you start. All right, so I'm trying to, I'm being a little flippant about that. Now, look, Fix-It Clinic is like improv. You never know what the general public's going to present you with. So, but there were never any major issues like timing out of alignment or something. A lot of it was honestly, people didn't know how to thread their own machines. Or how to adjust bobbin tension, basically.
I just wanted to, I saw that Cami put into the chat that we're talking about liability tomorrow, just for people who are interested in broadening that conversation. There's going to be a session tomorrow about it. What about restoring?
Sorry,
Restoring.
reshoring, actually. I know this is one of Peter's favorite topics, reshoring of manufacturing.
Oh, reshoring.
Oh, yeah. So we're early days on this right at the moment, but we've basically seen that the global supply chain got very brittle during the pandemic. And we have to look at a world where more of what we consume is designed, built, serviced, and maintained in a local service area using locally available tools, materials, processes, and services. And that can be as simple as, can we use like a local straw to make brooms or something like that, rather than importing more plastic stuff from China. So it doesn't have to be necessarily high tech. But I just met this really cool company in Oakland that's actually making computers for satellites using an older fab system. I don't know, for those of you who are in tech, and I'm going to geek out here for a second, but basically they can design the whole computer on a 210 nanometer fab instead of the 5 nanometer fabs that we're giving to Intel and to TSMC to build in Arizona now. So we can use existing stuff that we have now. We can build the latest technology, cutting edge space age technology on older fabrication plants that what they were doing before is they were disassembling them and sending them to third-party countries. So those are two very dramatic examples, brooms and computer chips. But think of all the stuff in between. So part of what Fix-It Clinic does is we hold events at colleges and universities to teach the next generation of designers and practitioners, engineers, how to design for durability, maintainability, serviceability, repairability, alongside teaching them design for manufacturing. And what better way to understand how to build something better for design for sustainability for the circular economy than to interrogate the things that we have in our built world now. So let's show them a toaster that has been designed in this race to the bottom to be absolutely manufacturable for the absolute lowest cost, and then say, well, suppose we could do this locally. How much of this can we source in Northern California or in Washington State or in Massachusetts, or not just in the United States, in sub-Saharan Africa for that matter? Because the whole continent of Africa is coming online. The vision there was that China was going to be the manufacturer. They were going to supply the raw materials to China. China was going to build all of this stuff that they were going to sell back to the Africans. And I'm saying, let's see if we can't do this around the entire planet, because I think that's the only, I don't know, my best thing at this point, that's the only way we can really have this stuff working for the future. If we're going to have this level of consumer goods and stuff, it's got to be much sourced locally a lot more.
I just want to be like, yes.
Seems obvious.
Yeah. So this is just a sidebar question to that kind of mind space. What is the larger conversation? Is there more larger conversations happening at the manufacturing level to, go along with like the right to repair and all of that kind of ideology for the United States?
Ooh, that's another whole session. It's bursty at the moment. There are some manufacturers who are very quietly understanding that this is going to have to happen. There are other manufacturers who are basically, over our dead corporate bodies. Mm-hmm. And there's some people in the middle who are trying to find some happy medium. But I basically say, if we can do it from the grassroots level up, maybe we can circumvent them completely. I mean, I would very gladly, if there was some European manufacturer who wanted to start a campaign at Christmas that says, if they really are making more durable, more maintainable, more serviceable, I'm saying, if you love your family and the environment, you'll buy a Krups toaster oven this Christmas or a Moulinex toaster oven this Christmas, as opposed to what we see in the United States. I'd be very happy to support a manufacturer like that.
All right, are there any more questions from the group? All right, I think we're good.
I got a question. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Greg.
Hey, okay, so I don't know if I've asked you this before, but you talked about manufacturing here and how it can be manufactured. you have to take another step backwards into the design aspect. And then another step, even backwards more, you have to get the universities to teach engineers how to make products that are recyclable, reusable, repurposable, and so forth. Have you addressed, I mean, you're there in Berkeley, you know, the hotbed of free speech. Why not have you spoken to the Berkeley, who actually produces some very fine engineers?
Right. So we've talked to Berkeley, we've talked to Harvard Designs, you know, it's in the architecture school at Harvard. We've done it at the University of Minnesota. So it's bursty. And look, this sort of, it was never going to be easy. All right. So everybody's been programmed a certain way to do something a certain way, and it's hard not to. But I put an example in the chat for those of you who have the chat open. Click on that website. So this is a toaster that Sunbeam made from the 1930s to the aughts. And basically it is, many people think, is the epitome of toaster design. It is absolutely wonderful. It doesn't have any down lever. If you see one of these at a yard sale or at a thrift store, buy it right away. Because the other thing is, when we see one of these at a fix-a-clinic, we know that we can fix it. Because the people who designed it, there's a screw on the underside. There's actually an adjustment screw. You have to know for it. Modern people don't even think to look. Okay, but you know, they knew, the engineers who designed it knew it was going to go out of alignment at some point, and the toast wouldn't rise up as levitate as easily. And there's actually an adjustment. Who would have thought? Okay, and so these are the sorts of things that, you know, that we want to. I would love to find out where the schematics and engineering diagram to this thing, because it's off patent now. I would love to throw this out as a design challenge to colleges and universities to say, can we start making this toaster again? Or can we make an even improved version of this toaster?